Welcome to the Anime Reviewers. I'm Zach.
I'm Matt.
Today we are talking about The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter, Episode 1, Powerful Skill Set. Before we get into the episode, I would like to talk about briefly some information about it. This show is being done by Studio Okudoro Noburo. It's being directed by Kenta Onishi, and it was written by Kenta Ihara.
It was this show satirical take on with a lot with that's just having satirical take on adventuring with a lot of sexual puns. Not puns, but like references and stuff that are like the title of the show is a sexual joke.
Yeah.
But that's like the theme of the show is hedonism.
Yeah.
And that's so it really fits with how they do everything. But there's tons of jokes like that are so like some are more subtle than others. Like, I didn't get that with the title of it.
Over.
Like just the title itself is a very subtle one because you don't put that together until you kind of think about it. Like that's
especially like not until after you watch the show where they talk about like, and we'll get to it more specifically, but where they talk about the hedonism.
Yeah. Well, and there's quite literally a hidden dungeon that he's the only one aware of.
Yeah. So the way the show works is it follows this character who is a extremely low-ranking noble.
He's the lowest of the cast. He's the lowest of the.
Yeah, I believe he's a baronet.
Yeah, baronet.
He's not a baron. He's a baronet.
Yeah.
And his name is Noir. And his intro is actually kind of entertaining because, like, he talks about how he's the third son. His family's, fairly poor, even though they're technically nobles. And he, like, belittles his father every time that they talk.
And his father's just like this basically a modern parent that's just way too nice to him.
Yeah.
Pile of trash.
Yeah. And Noir's not really like it. I know he's supposed to be the main character, like, the hero, like, just based on like his actions in this show, like this episode, like you really kind of don't want to root for it.
Well,
it's still a good show. Don't get me wrong, but like he's still a good character. But like you almost don't want to root for it.
Well, in a high school sense, he's that guy that every male hated because all the women like him for some reason, even though he is a jerk, and they think it's him being genuine, but he's just a jerk.
Yeah.
And but he is grateful. When they show his internal monologue and stuff, he is actually genuinely grateful because that's something I really do appreciate is you get to know what his thoughts.
Yeah. After his intro, he goes and meets the daughter of a baron that he knows and has known since they were children, Emma,
who literally had sound effects on her boobs too.
Yeah, she does. If you haven't caught on, by the way, this show, this episode, and the premise is highly ecchi. So I will say up front, real quick, before we get too deep in this, if you do not like ecchi stuff, if it's not your thing, you have zero interest in it, go ahead and stop now. Don't watch the show. Like, this is absolutely going to be an ecchi series. If you do not like that stuff, like, I get it.
That's one thing I will say, though, is I actually typically not into, like, there's that one show where the demon thing grabs her boobs and shoots milk, like acid milk out of them.
Oh, Queen's Blade.
Yeah, Queen's Blade. Like, I couldn't get into that show because of stupid things like that, even though that show is also hilarious and so on. This show is funny and has that stuff, and I actually want to watch it. So if you're like me and you don't like that kind of stuff, you may actually be able to enjoy this one because it's not super heavy.
This one is more of a subtle ecchi, whereas Queen's Blade was overtly ecchi.
Yeah. This isn't an over the top. That's the frosting on the cake, and there's actually a cake. To where Queen's Blade had no cake.
No, Queen's Blade it barely had frosting.
It was that pie. The thing they call a pie. That's just whipped cream in a tin.
Yeah, that's really what Queen's Blade was. I regret watching that one. Anyways, so we find out through talking and interaction, like Noir was up for a position to be a librarian. And like a viscount, I think, wanted his son to have the job. So, of course, Noir got the boot on the job, and the viscount's son got it. So he decides,
well, the girl Emma suggests to him.
No, his sister.
His sister.
His sister suggests going
For
to...
some reason, is in love with him too.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's where if they cross that line, which they almost do in this episode.
Yeah, it gets very close, and it's weird.
There's a line, and they cross that line, and in Game of Thrones, kind of took that line, cut it into pieces, threw it out the window, and you were able to enjoy it anyways. But it also fit to where this one, there is no,
there's no reason it fits.
There's no reason it fits. And as long as they respect the line, it will remain every time.
Yeah. But yeah, no, his sister suggests he joins the, I think it's called like the Hero Academy or something.
Yeah, Hero Academy, where you either become a knight or an adventurer.
Yeah, because if you get either of those jobs, it sets you up for life, you know.
That's what's appealing. That's what he says, and it's appealing to him.
Yeah, but yeah, him and Emma are talking about it, and seeing as he has really no other options, he does decide he's going to go for it. But he has no idea how to get stronger. Like, he's not exactly a swordsman. Like, his job was, he was trying to become a librarian. Like, I'm not saying he's not, like, he doesn't have, like, some knowledge of the sword, but he clearly doesn't have, like, I was raised by a knight type skill set. Like, it's like, oh, I know how to carry a sword and swing it around vaguely is probably his skill set with the sword. Which, actually, we do see his skill set with the sword, which is, I know how to carry it and vaguely swing it around. Because it's all he sort of does with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we find out, like, people especially, like, it's unclear whether it's absolutely everybody or just a number of people. But some people are born with inherent skills. Also, the world is based around like video game mechanics and leveling up. Because he actually mentions, "Oh, I leveled up in game," or like in the show. So like there is an actual like in-world leveling mechanic.
And there's some sort of voice thing that
Great save. For him, it's great save.
Well, no, but there's something that actually talks to him about the cost of the level, the skills.
Oh, that's Olivia when she's explaining it.
Well, no, when he says, I wanted to do this thing. I want to kill the Death Reaper, and it goes, no, that'll cost 4,000 life points. That's literally more than
nothing's. So for that, what you're talking about, like nothing's telling him it. He had like it's basically like an information bar that pops up in his field of vision or like in his head. Like he just has that information when he's like, I want.
There was a part where it actually talks to him. And
no,
we'll find out when we watch more of the show.
So far, the only skill that he has that ever communicates is Great Sage. Because the whole purpose of Great Sage is you ask Great Sage a question and it gives you an answer. When he learns, because he uses, we'll get to the. Sorry, I'm gonna backtrack real quick, but like he uses Great Sage to figure out how to get more powerful.
We'll go back to where we were.
Yeah, we'll go back to where we were. But when him and Emma are talking, it turns out she found out that like, because the ability he has is super rare. The only other person that's had it is the Great Sage Merlin. And she's like, oh, according to history books, when Great Sage Merlin used his powers, he'd ask for a kiss from one of his many wives to relieve stress of his powers or something like that. And of course, they decided to get, that was going to go there.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the funniest parts about the whole thing, too, is when they're about to kiss. She's like, wait, we gotta do it, so this isn't the right place. She takes him up this, like, beautiful, it's like that cliched, like, I want to be over a balcony on Paris and have the whole city. So it's a beautiful scene, the sun setting, what you wish is what your first kiss was like.
Yes.
But it's just great. And, like, that whole scene is actually really comedic.
Yeah.
And the kiss isn't cringy or anything like that.
And like it does relieve the stress of his power. So
it's headache. And it is better a little bit, and then they start making out.
Yeah. Yeah. But he finds out about this hidden dungeon, and he goes there. The hidden dungeon, like the password for it is the hidden dungeon only I can enter. Like it's exactly the title of the show, which I find to be kind of funny. Upon entering, someone starts communicating with him telepathically. To lead him to where she is, and we meet another character, Olivia.
A beautiful woman chained up.
She's a former adventurer from 200 years ago, but she's in these chains.
And she found that dungeon on her own.
Yeah, she did. I'm not like she comes across as the type of person that like sort of embellishes their own stories. So it's unclear. Like I take what she says with a grain of salt. just because of the way she emphatically talks about herself, especially when she talks about her own prowess, her own abilities. Like, she gets far more excited and exuberant about it. So, like, I take what she says with a grain of salt.
Like her powers are all built around because you come to find out that that's how the powers work. Because he like makes a deal with her rather than having him help her escape.
Yeah, because he talks about like breaking her free. And she's like, "Oh no, these are the chains of something. Like if you cut them, I die." Which I will say, like he has great sage. Like she finds out he has the great sage ability. Like why did they not use it?
Yeah,
I gotta say, like why did
well,
they
maybe
not...
she knows enough about it that it is impossible to break it.
That is possible. Or she doesn't fully grasp the great sage ability. Like she may not fully grasp his power.
Yeah.
Or it may be like or the other option is she does know about her power, but the level of information would cause him to collapse. You know, sort of one of those things. Like that type of information would be too extreme for him. But she ends up passing on her skill sets, which are get creative, bestow, and editor. What they do is exactly what they sort of sound like. Get creative is the only one that I feel really needs an explanation, which is it lets you create any skill.
And in a way, it's very Faustian too.
Yeah, because you find out it consumes what she calls LP, or if you're a video gamer, life points.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's really what it breaks. Like with how video gamey this series is, like I'm pretty sure it's a reference to life points. And the more the more complex the skill is, or the more power, the more power the skill requires, like the more LP it will consume. And bestow, like if you create a skill, you can bestow it. Editor, you can edit skills you've created.
Or delete them.
Well, that would be editing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they talk about the skills and stuff, and now that he's got these skills, and you see him do like a little bit of practice with them before like he enters the school's like opening ceremony thing, where Emma, of course, is there, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you had the librarian job," and she's like, "Nah, I quit that." And he's like, "Why?" She's like, "Well, I wouldn't get to be with you." Like that's her entire reasoning for like, "No, I'm not gonna take a nice job. I'm gonna go try to be an adventurer and not."
Yep, she wants to be around him.
They do have a third party member. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I don't. Well, she's kind of right now. She is just so she makes it to where she just brushes them off. She just picks them to be on the team because they're not, because she's actually a higher rank in the nobility.
Yeah.
And she just picks them so that way she doesn't so she has a team, so they have to be on a team.
Yeah.
And then she just tells them, "I'm gonna go do stuff."
Yeah. Is she? Yeah, that's really kind of why I don't remember her. Is because she just sort of like hi bye type thing.
Yeah. And she tries to introduce himself to her, and she's like, "I don't care."
Yeah, I didn't ask for your name. I don't care about a baronet's name. Which again is like I will say like they are really playing into like how nobility matters. And I'm curious, like, I will say, like, I am kind of curious how well that's going to keep. But he ends up going to the dungeon that he can enter. And goes and ends up...
Goes to the third floor.
Goes to the third floor and defeats a Reaper. I forget exactly what it's called, but it is a Reaper of some kind. It's, like, level 99 and, like, has, if it hits you, it kills you. Yeah, if its scythe hits you, it kills you. And he's like, "Oh, I'll just edit it, death touch skill to go away." And it's like, that's 4,000 life points. And he's like, no, that'll kill me 4 times over. So he ends up bestowing it gravity to make it slow. And then edits his, because one of the skills he created was like a stone bullet.
He says, "I want to make a stone bullet that costs 400 life points."
Which would technically be edit.
Well, the skill is basically pay life points to shoot stone bullets.
Yeah.
So that's what I assumed it was, because that's how he casts it. Holds his hand out and he says, "I pay 400 life points to shoot stone bullets strong enough to kill him."
Yep.
And it kills the
Reaper.
He gets the skull.
He goes to his master, Olivia, because she insists that he calls him master, and they actually make a joke about it. And he's like, "Can I bring this to the school? Will that be okay?" Or, she's like, "Oh yeah, it's a nothing enemy, whatever." And he does, and when they're at the ceremony and whatever, like his team ends up with like, I think it's like over 1 million points or something.
Well, but they're announcing all of them.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And they're like, "We still haven't been called yet. We failed. What happened?" And then they announce their first place, and they have 1 million points. And all 3 of them are like do that cliched anime thing where they're like the detail goes away, their eyes get all white and solid black, and they're
And it's really funny because it cuts back to Olivia, and she's like, and you get sort of her thoughts. She's like, "Oh, that Reaper thing is weak compared to me. They're gonna think it's a miracle he took it down. Oh, that'll be interesting." And it's like, oh, whatever. The main
conclusion.
that's sort of the conclusion of the story. But like one thing like that is actually super important that we've sort of not mentioned yet is in specifically talking about the LP, which I did it this way because I feel that sort of needs its own like
little part.
Little
How
part.
he gets his power.
So he has to spend LP to create, edit, or bestow skills. But there is a way for him to gain LP, and it is by doing things that bring him
Pleasure.
Specifically
pleasure. Remember the theme of the show.
Yeah, specifically pleasure. And I will say, like, Olivia's like listing off things, and I like it's hysterical because it's
Eating large amounts of food.
well, first it's sex, or sexual relations with someone, eating large amounts of delicious, and it's specifically delicious food, being materialistic, essentially like, and he's like, so you want me to be a hedonist? And she's like, yeah, but she's not.
Well, that's why I think she's so. Why I personally think she's so like why she's so
The way she is, yeah.
That her power is the same thing. She has to think highly of herself. She has
That is
to
true.
all these.
That is true. Like that's entirely possible. The way he starts gaining LP, like the first thing he does is he goes and lays on his sister's lap and then gives her a hug. Then later on he goes to meet with Emma, and like she's dressed super nicely and they're at a park or something, or at least so she clearly like, oh, this is a special date or something, and he's just like, not just a hug, like he's clearly like there for his own motivations.
It's
Yeah, exactly.
it's their plan. He's well done. Like he is well done in that way.
And I will say it's also kind of, I wish he wasn't as oblivious as he is.
But if he
Is there
wasn't
ma-
oblivious, then he would be evil as opposed to just a dick.
Yeah, but I think the hedonism would play better if he wasn't as
Yeah, but Death Note just shows exactly why, where
it worked.
yes, but this is a happy comedy
Yes,
thing.
that's fair enough. Fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. And actually, like when he gets up from Emma's,
It's it's the difference between Bender and Light. Bender from Futurama.
Yeah.
Bender's the lovable criminal.
yeah, so he has to be a hedonist to gain his powers, which is just.
And then to thank her for hugging him and all that. That was the fun. The one last thing is the funniest scene to me. Pretty much the end of the episode was to thank her for doing all the. They were doing all the physical stuff, and I think they kiss again.
No, they're just so good.
They just hug. Okay. Anyways, he
hugs her and takes a whiff of her scent, and
Yeah.
that's what it is.
but to thank her for basically doing what he wants, she recognizes she's complaining about her back and shoulder hurting, and he's like, well, the reason that's happening is because she's got
Well,
large boobs, and it gets rid of her.
Well, because she comments about the fact that you big boobs are sometimes a pain because they give her back muscle. But
And he gets rid of her. He gives her switches her boobs to small boobs. And at first she's like freaking out what happened. Then she gets mad that they're gone. He does such a great line of, it's better now, but you feel better
He's like,
now.
I feel
but
better.
I like it the other way.
yeah, she gets pissed.
And demands them back, and he gives them back, and then goes, oh, what a waste of life points, which I really feel is going to be one of the common things. That you're going to be making a lot of mistakes with those powers, too. But that's why I'm going to keep watching this show.
Yeah, it actually is funny, and if they keep it sort of this way, I kind of hope they tone down the sister love thing.
Yeah.
I hope once he gets into school and that gets going, that falls either out of frame or.
As long as they don't go Sword Art Online.
Yeah, that's really my concern because they start going real strong towards that Sword Art Online bad.
Yeah,
but
that's
kind of why I want it to tone down and go to the back burner.
well, as long as he just uses her to hug and put his head on her lap because he's got a headache, and she's just kind of goofy for him.
Yeah.
Where it's at, they're right at that line. Like I said before,
Yeah.
the line. Recognize the line and stay or go back a little bit, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Go back a little bit.
If they go back a little bit, I think
Give her a boyfriend
Yeah,
that looks and acts just like him, so it's hilarious.
yeah, that would work.
But as it is now,
But yeah, this was enjoyable, and even the animation's good for this too. I will say.
Yeah, that animation and I always find my only real criticism besides the fact just the obvious stuff of what I don't like in regards to the kind of
The
edgy stuff. The power he creates is so lame, like rock bullet. But I mean, it is like when you're thinking like, okay, I'm giving myself general powers that are going to be like, and it's not like he's going to be.
It is a utility skill though.
Oh yeah,
because it gives him a ranged attack.
yes, but it's just so obvious where it's just like it's like when you watch a Green Lantern cartoon. Oh, I use a big hammer to crush you with, and it's like, dude, I would have a fat whale or like a really cool car that I'd be smashing you with. But at concentration and cost and all that, for the more simple the spell, his skill, the cheaper it's going to cost.
And he does admit the fact that like when he uses it for the first time and it costs him his points, like, oh, that's what the draining of LP is like.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree with you in the fact that it was simplistic, but I like the fact that they made it make sense and he was aware of it.
It makes sense. It's just a criticism I personally have. That's the
Yeah.
only reason I bring it up is because I just feel it's not creative enough in my opinion. But then again, the show is not trying. Nothing is original about this. It is just trying to be funny and tell a
Actually, it is. I mean, the concept, the story itself is original. Like, I don't
yeah,
know.
him getting
like,
powers with the stuff, but there's always like someone who just gets. But the fact he's overpowered, he's noble, he's trying to join some elite group of people that he can be set for life.
well, he's trying to get a job. He doesn't really care too much about,
Yeah.
like, for him, it's not about being an adventurer or a knight. Like, it's not about the.
Well, it's just being set for life.
Yeah, it's about the job, like, and making ends meet and stuff. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's everything.
Have a good one.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And hit that bell icon for notifications. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Links in the description down below.